Next, I'm pleased to introduce Sébastien GOETHALS, a professional urban development expert, urban planner and architect with over 16 years experience in developing cities in Europe, in Africa, and in Asia Pacific, focusing on green infrastructure planning, transport infrastructure, sustainable urban mobility, and logistics. Sebastian founded CITILINKS in China and in the Netherlands to build bridges between disciplines and to design solutions for cities facing inadequacy of infrastructure and transport systems, street and public space responsiveness to livability, resilience, and public health. So welcome, Sebastian, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Corian. Thanks a lot for the introduction. Hello, everyone. It's really a pleasure for me to be invited in your network today to give a presentation. Actually, it's really inspiring to see so many planners from the African continent gathering together and exchanging ideas. I really enjoy the initiative. So today I'm just going to give my little contribution to what is possibly innovation in the future of African city with a broad view and actually a few links with what Mark and Miriam just explained. So actually, yeah, I will cover a little bit some prospective views on urbanization, but also from my experience in several cities. So we all know that, yeah, we are more than 50% of urban population today, but it's going to reach 65% of urbanization worldwide by the next 30 years. And globally, we can see by 2030, actually, demographic blocks, if I could say, like China, India, and Africa, will all reach 1.5 billion people. And then actually the African population will rise much further and the Chinese one will decrease. But it shows actually a kind of pattern of urbanization towards megacities and also the rise of the urban economy, which is going at different speeds and with different models. And it's quite interesting to learn from each other at this time. So, well, I'm from Belgium, but actually I've spent most of my career in Asian and African cities, mostly in West Africa, but also in China, when I saw and I practiced there, and I saw like 6 to 7 million people coming in one city in a few years to live. And so in China, we have like, in a period of 35 years, we will have 1 billion people migrating from the countryside to cities. And actually Africa is on the way to have similar numbers, but completely different patterns. And as Mark was saying, actually at the beginning of this presentation, well, we'll look a lot of African mega cities. And you can see here on the right that actually we have about 10 very large cities in Africa, which actually totalize 12% of the African urban population. And then, okay, we still have 29 primary cities, metropolitan areas, which have 17% of the African population. But what is really happening behind, and that's the forest behind the trees, is that half of this urbanization process is happening in secondary cities. And when we are looking at that, we realize that the lack of governance and the absence of African planners is not really happening in the centralized place. I mean, in the capital cities, well, many African countries are still very centralized, but actually something is happening in secondary, tertiary cities that really needs more governance, more tools, and of course, more planners, more disciplines, and also less silos when it's about to plan urban development, but also infrastructure, services, and of course the urban economy. So this is a major aspect that we are actually now investing more attention to, but it's quite recent. And while primary cities and mega cities are still struggling to catch up with previous insufficient planning, because actually urbanization went too fast, sometimes without enough attention to strategic planning, but also operational planning. Well, in the present time, there is also a need to address immediate response to urgencies in many aspects, from affordable housing to slum upgrading, but also infrastructure, connectivity and accessibility, and definitely building a solid base for the urban economy and providing jobs. Then, well, the environmental pressure and climate risk are on the rise, but that's also part of potentially a circular economy model that can be applied in a decentralized way for African cities. So anytime there is a threat or an obstacle, there are multiple opportunities that come from informality, communities, and potentially citizen engagement and participatory planning. But those potential areas of improvement and healthy development of African cities are sometimes hidden or disconnected. So it's a lot about connecting the dots to developing the right model for the right city. And this is actually very fascinating, because now we can really see a young generation of planners that is taking this and trying to experiment much more than before disciplines and sectors that used to be addressed in silos. So, well, a bigger deal is about urban governance and land management. And just to go from theory to practice, I want to share a little bit about my personal experience. Actually, I've spent 3 years in Conakry, the capital city of Guinea, which is a very linear city and very informal, with a very limited density of urban streets. One of the least dense cities for street infrastructure in West Africa. And actually the plan, the ambition was to approach transport planning through the urban planning lens by actually trying to create a polycentric system, a decentralized agglomeration where transit-oriented development around BRT station or train station could actually activate public participation in informal neighborhoods and communities. Well, then deconcentrating government function, but also logistic and industrial function from the port, which is located in Kaloum at the very extremity of the peninsula, to the other extremity, was actually to just give more space for the city to breathe and combine functions together, create intermodality, but also multifunctionality around those new hubs, which are already in urbanized areas. Well, the reality is that when we start to plan infrastructure with actually looking at the urban framework and the system, we realize how much we have to deal with informality and see how we can connect this kind of infrastructure planning with communities that are living in this kind of context. So we faced 4 major obstacles when it was about to really look at how to implement big visions into practical pilot projects and short-term results for people. First, we realized the lack of urban planners, not only in universities, but also at the local government, definitely at the national government, but also in the private sector. So that was actually a kind of void that made it difficult to get out of the silos. I mean, transportation, waste management, sanitation. Okay, we addressed all of those issues, but we had difficulties to find a consensus, because we were still in this way of saying thing, and you can see, well, we used digital tools, but we also used physical tools for informed decision making, by having many people, communities, decision makers, stakeholders around the table, which has the table was actually a physical model. But then we face the lack of data, and actually collected data and even planning tools are very quickly obsolete because the city is growing much faster than planning is happening. And well, the community engagement is still very difficult to centralize per district, not actually in a very immediate way. So it takes time to reach people and to organize them together. And then there is, of course, the issue of land tenure insecurity and no updated cadastre, but also at that point in Conakry, there was not yet any digitalized cadastre. So we try to understand how to really transform this approach into something more adapted to the local culture, but we also see people and human activity on the ground as the real potential to build incremental, smart and healthy communities from the smallest scale. Yeah, so these pictures are taken in the market of Medina in Conakry for those who know. And well, the mass transit system is planned to have more than 230,000 passengers per day per direction. But the idea is, of course, to see how to optimize the amount of people that could be immediately beneficiaries of this mass transit line by looking at how we can readjust land through land value capture and transit-oriented development. So we calculated a little bit how many people live at 10 minutes walking from BRT, HRT station. But again, the lack of data is not easy to tackle. And that leads me to actually, well, potentially the main message is that while a city can have urban planning tools, or even a vision, which is actually a strategic, comprehensive urban plan, then it requires the right capacity with the right skills to address this vision and to implement it. Also, by taking care of citizen engagement. And I think once we have those two pillars, we still lack of the third pillar, which is about knowledge and data-informed decision-making. And that's where actually African cities have a huge potential. And I'm not specifically talking about local governments or planning departments, but I'm thinking about universities and potentially incubators linking the academic sector and the private sector to actually take care of what urban data or how urban data can be not only collected and analyzed, but treated to find really community-based incremental solutions. And if we start to have a kind of smart urban labs where universities, local planning departments or local governments, also national government potentially, can build together an urban observatory where data is actually treated in an open way, then we start to have this kind of tools that can nurture a better vision for the city through a better consensus and actually build as well the capacity and the skills. And for all of this, we don't need just computer engineers, we need planners that have this ability to link or to connect the dots. So basically, well, there are different ways to approach smart urban labs. Well, that's one term. We can also talk about urban observatories, which are a bit more centralized and formal and official. But the idea is that, or the purpose is to be able to monitor and update urban data on a regular basis and also urban planning tools. So once we can start to digitize land management, once we can start to coordinate policies because we have data-informed processes. Well, land security, anticipation of land acquisition to build better suburbs, to connect them better, to combine infrastructure development, densification, and land value capture to make it happen. All of this becomes more visible and comprehensible for all. So, well, that's potentially a tool. But I believe, and because we were talking today a lot about the evolution of planning and design education in Africa, I believe that there is a role to be taken by university in this. Then, of course, there is the whole fact about, well, the success factors, which are very much linked to governance. Governance itself can actually find more strength in this kind of tool. But the tool can also needs a more transversal governance and a better institutional landscape at the local level to happen. And that's what, for example, secondary cities need. They usually, if you look at secondary cities like Maradi in Niger or Kikwit in DRC, or I don't know, Nakuru in Kenya, we have this kind of lack of capacity compared to the capital city, because the country is still very centralized, and there is a need to catch up quickly because there is not much time before the population double. And well, digitalization is this potential tool to quickly catch up with this capacity. So there are different ways to approach, of course, an urban observatory. The first way is the most democratic one, is to create an open data portal. Like here you can see the one of Cape Town, which gives all the information and connects it together through a GIS online portal. Well, there are multiple models, like what is also happening as a result of a research in the private sector in Ghana with the use of blockchain, where actually land information, land data can be shared in a decentralized way for everyone. Well, there are different scenarios, and there is not one model for all countries and all cities. But you can see that more and more around the world, cities are building their urban observatories, their smart city labs, and try to integrate this information to improve decision making. And that's a huge opportunity for African cities. So, but definitely it's a huge opportunity to build a tool of research at universities and create modelized tests. What can the African city become tomorrow by involving local people? Even, I mean, we talk about people-centered, but we can also, and I'm talking about university, but we can also talk about primary and secondary cities. I mean, the youth is the future of African cities, and the earliest they are involved, the better it is, because making the city is actually something that everyone can share. I mean, there is a part of knowledge that requires specialists, and there is a part of experience that can be shared by all kinds of groups of population. So, yeah, as I said, if those digital tools can become opportunities for better decision making at the municipal level, the national level, well, it improves governance. If it can empower local communities and people, we can have very, let's say, yeah, incremental or tactical solutions for water management, water collection, waste collection, and circular economy solutions using waste, land use management in a community to find consensus, maybe not for a megacity in one day, but maybe for a few communities with pilot projects, and then finally reach a bigger scale for cities that are growing actually really fast, sometimes really too fast. And this can lead to serious games, as we call them. It's gamification through digitization that can involve people to play something and make digital placemaking happen and co-design actually their space, their collective space. So maybe I will finish with this question, like how informality, participatory process, and digitalization can be approached by African city makers. I say city makers really involve multiple range of stakeholders to develop people-centered and incremental solutions for inclusive and agile urban environments. So that would be maybe my last sentence and my question for it, with a picture here of Bukavu and really impressive hills that have been quickly urbanized these last years. So thank you very much for your attention.